So, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat today. We are joined with Michael. Now, Michael's been a part of the community for 2 years at this point, and as many of you guys know, I'm a 17-year-old high school dropout. Michael actually dropped out at the age of 16, so next we're probably gonna get the 12-year-old middle school dropout millionaire. But yeah, this is a very, very interesting story. Michael is making six figures a year from his agency, and as I said, there's certain people in the community where I know their stories so intimately between obviously seeing their posts in the group, between the fact that they've been members for a couple of years and the live Q&A calls. Between, if you think over like a 1 year period, and the fact that I do my live Q&A calls every Sunday for 1.5 to 2 hours, although sometimes like last Sunday I let it go on for 2.5 hours. Plus the fact that I'm on Zoom and I'm speaking one-on-one with someone once they get unmuted, you get to you get to see some very familiar faces in the community and really get to know their journey. So I know Michael's journey very well, both from a business sense, from a discipline slash mindset sense, from a well-being and friendship sense, and I can tell you he's a very, very interesting and a very smart character at that. So without any further ado, let's roll into the student interview. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another student interview. We are joined here with Michael, and I'm really, really excited to get into the student interview. There's a lot I want to unpack. There's a lot of very different, a lot of very interesting points to your story. So, first of all, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day.
Sure. Thanks to you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. So, first of all, what crazy motherfucker drops out of school at the age of 16? So can you touch on that? So first of all, how old are you right now? And where are you from?
Yeah, for sure. So basically right now I'm 19 years old from Montreal, Canada. And yeah, you're right. It's pretty it is a big move to drop out of high school at like 16 years old. And I did it because at that time I didn't really know like where exactly, like what business model I wanted to have, but I knew for sure that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have my own online business. And yeah, just I didn't really see the point in having like a degree, because I knew for sure that when I found out about like entrepreneurship, that I was going to work for myself and build my own business. So I was like, why do I need a degree when it's going to be me hiring people and not the other way around? So yeah, that's basically my thought. And also, I dropped out of high school because I also knew that if I didn't drop out of high school, I would be left with like a degree, and maybe I'd be like less motivated. But like when I dropped out of high school, I was like, okay, like if I drop out of high school, like I will not have really, I'll not have a choice to succeed basically, and I'll find a way. So I basically burned my bridges. So that was, one of the reason why I did it. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I was saying off camera, before we started recording, basically, I did it when I didn't even know about you or like the whole like marketing agency space, or like the whole like digital entrepreneur, or like digital nomad or whatever. Because I think nowadays it's almost it's almost like a trend to drop out of school or whatever. But like,
yeah, the 12-year-old middle school dropout millionaire.
Yeah,
like honestly, that's what we're gonna get next. Like I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. So yeah, back then I was like, I wasn't influenced by all this stuff. I was just like, yeah, this is what I want, and it makes sense for me, and I'm just going to take the risk, and yeah, go for it.
Okay, so first of all, quick question: what did you find the hardest part about dropping out of high school? Because I'll give you my answer after.
Right. Damn, that's a good question. Like, I think it was probably the fact that I was alone and like I didn't really felt understood, because like when I dropped out of high school, I was basically like doing no money at all. I was basically, I had like a few $1,000s in my bank account, was pretty much broke, and I had nothing going on, even though I was like working like really hard every single day. So that was hard. And also the fact that like all my friends and, family members and everything were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like what, it's a bad move and stuff. So, and, nowadays when I look back at it, like, comments like this from people I like, friends or family members, really doesn't affect me because, like now I consider myself being like good, with my business and with the amount of money I'm making right now. But like back then when I was broke, I was working really hard, nothing was going on. Like it was hard because like and I got in like, I got depressed at one point. I was like, damn, like did I really mess it up? Like should I go back to school and stuff? But like, yeah, at the end of the day, I think that was the hardest thing, like not being understood or like being alone, not being able to relate, because like all my friends were like you're fucking up, like what the fuck you're doing right now, you shouldn't do that and stuff. Yeah. What about you?
I definitely feel that. I think for me, honestly, now it's at this point in my life, it's normal to almost forget what day of the week it is, and it's normal to like the concept of a job and just those stringent sort of boundaries on your life. Like it just seems like such an alien thing for me. But I'd say for me, the hardest thing about dropping out of school is the fact that like you literally go from, you have to be here at this time, you leave at this time. This is your set schedule. This is when you can work. This is when you can work on, can and can't work on your personal stuff. You have such a stringent sort of schedule to, you wake up one morning. I remember the first day I dropped out of school, like you wake up that next morning and you're like, holy shit. Like I actually have like 16 hours to work on the business. Like it almost seemed like what too much. Like what am I even going to do with all this time? And you tell yourself that, you're going to be super disciplined and super on it. But, a lot of times too many options is the worst option. And like, too much time is, I find a lot of the time that, just having too open of a day actually like messes you up, because it's like, you're always going to leave things to that last minute. So I'd say that was kind of the toughest thing is like, as an entrepreneur, you have to set your own schedule, and that is way harder than people think it is. And you have to be, there's no one there who's going to tell you to be at your desk at a certain time or this or that. It's what you do in private, and you can be at your desk on the time you told yourself you'd be there, or you can be there 2 hours later because you slept in. Realistically, no one's going to know. No one around you is going to know. You're the only person who's going to know. So, yeah, I'd say probably that was the toughest thing, which is just like, you think you're going to be super productive once you drop out of school and this and that, or, potentially for something more relatable, once you like leave your job and go full time with your agency or this or that, or you might think that, even with your job, let's say you have the summer break coming up or winter break or Christmas or whatever, you think that you're going to be super productive when that time comes around. But then when that time comes around and you actually have the whole day, it's like almost overwhelming. So yeah, I'd say that's what it was for me. So like you drop out of school, and then, how long after that did you come into contact with the agency world?
Pretty much like 3 months later.
Mm-hmm. And
yep.
And what was your timeline from there to where you are now?
Yeah, so basically January 2018, that was like, my first start of actually like running the business. I opened up like my business like few months prior to that, but I didn't really work on it and stuff because I was going to school. But I was like reading books and stuff while in school, and doing like online courses and stuff like that, really like into self-development. And that's what like got me started with the business thing and everything, because before that I didn't even know about like I didn't even know that it was an option, to become an entrepreneur and like build your own business and stuff like that. So January 2018, that was like my start. And back then I was in the dental niche, so I was reaching out to dentists, and I was doing like LinkedIn outreach, I remember, and all day long that was all I was doing, LinkedIn outreach. And for like a month or so, like nothing really happened. And then I was like, back then I was reaching out to like anybody in my LinkedIn network and in my LinkedIn connections, no matter if they were like a dentist or related to the dental word. Like it didn't really make sense. But like what's funny is like I reached out to that guy who was like in the banking industry or whatever. And I say, oh, blah, 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 I help like dental clinics get more patients, doing online marketing and stuff like that. And then the funny thing is like, hey, I'm not a dentist, but like my cousin actually owns a dental clinic not so far, and I can refer you to him. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, great. And then I call him up, and then we set an appointment, and that was like my first meeting. And I basically closed the guy within like an hour. So I was really, really motivated, first meeting, and I actually closed the guy. Um, so yeah, that was it. And then after that, I was
How much do you close them for?
$1,500 per month. It was like for content creation, even though I didn't even know nothing about content creation. But yeah, that was $1,500 per month. Um, and then after that, the second client came like a few months later. Really took some time, like maybe I think, yeah, May 2018. That was like my second client. And I got him doing cold calling. And it took me a lot of time and a lot of cold calls to get that client. I think I did like 1,000 cold calls to get him, because I was getting meetings, but like it was so hard to close in the dental niche for me, because I was meeting like the manager, because like it's so hard to meet the dentist because he's like always working with the patient. So yeah, I had a hard time. And also like I found that the dental niche, like it's a more like formal slash corporate niche and mentality. Didn't really resonate with me. But yeah, I closed this guy, and like this client I'm still working with like today. So it's been like almost like 2 years, and it's one of my best client. Yeah.
Talk about client retention, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Right. And yeah, after that and funnily enough, like because this guy was the manager that I closed, when I'm talking about like my best client, this guy was like the manager, and that was like my main point of contact with this business. And this guy was actually a real estate broker, and that's actually how I like thought of like transitioning into the real estate niche. And because like he was like seeing the great return on investment we were bringing him with Facebook ads, and he was like, can you also do that for my own real estate business? And I was like, yeah, sure. So yeah, then after that I transitioned into the real estate niche 100%. And then from there, like I'd say October 2019 or no, October 2018, that was like when I first got my first real estate client besides this one. And then just things took off from that point. Like I think October 2019, I was making like $2,000, and then after that, um, January I was making like 3,000, and then February 2019 I was making like, that's when I first made like $7,500 profit. That was like a breakthrough moment for me.
Wow.
Yeah, then after that it was like basically where I'm at today.
Awesome. So your agency is doing around, I mean, it's around that six-figure year mark. And how many clients are you working with at the moment?
At the moment, we have 5 clients.
5 clients. And I know that your agency, as you said, you broke past around 8,000, 7,500 slash $8,000 a month, but you were delivering all the services yourself, right?
Yep.
So you decided at this, over the past 5, 6 months, and obviously we spoke off camera, and I know your story quite intimately. Over the past 5, 6 months, you've been starting to build out your team, and rather than hoarding all those profits, you've been deciding to kind of reinvest that, bring a team member on. What made you decide to do that? Because other than that, you're cutting into a chunk of your pie.
Right. Well, I was doing everything myself. So it was like really exhausting. And honestly, it was like I was like so stressed out all the time. I was working like too much. And like it came to a point where like, my sister would come and would ask me like, hey, what are you working on today or this week? Or like, what did you do today? And I was like, I don't know. Like I was so like stressed out and like I wasn't there. Like I couldn't think anymore. Because
Mm.
I was doing like everything. So that's when I was like, okay, like yes, it's great to be making like a good amount of money monthly, but like at the end of the day, this is not, scalable, and I don't want to be doing that and living like that all my life. So I was like, let me bring like a Facebook ad specialist that will help me handle the clients. And I was like, I was ready to sacrifice profits to scale the business in the long term and have like a real team.
This is something that this is something that people are very, very curious on. It's the path that I took. First off, having a contractor on a per month per client basis, so you're paying them per client account that they're managing per month. But it's not like a white label or a contractor. It's like it's having a team member, and you're trying to nurture that person. And it's like, yeah, they may only be managing one or two or three client accounts for right now, but the goal is as your agency grows, you nurture them and you bring them on full time. So it's something that I've done very successfully. Obviously, you've done successfully, and I know it's something people are very, very curious about. So first of all, where do you find your team member?
Right. So funnily enough, like I did a lot of interviews, from people I found on Upwork and Facebook groups and stuff like that. But, you know, my Facebook ad specialist right now, I already know about him. So
Mm.
like personally, he lives like really close to me. And basically he was an ex-employee at where my dad's work, where my dad is working basically. So he was like a colleague of my dad. And you
Wait,
know
how old is he?
I don't know for sure, but I think he's like 24, like 25 years old.
Okay, I was thinking like 40 or 45. I'm like, geez,
No, no,
that
no.
40-year-old working for a 19-year-old. We live in a cool world. We live in a cool world.
Yeah. So that's how I found out about him. Basically, I already knew him, already trusted him, and yeah, he was a pretty nice guy. We're basically friends, basically. Yeah.
Hmm. So did he have any background in paid traffic, or did he have that sort of, because here's the thing, especially with like, I found it with salespeople, I found it with people doing paid traffic, like I find out not so much with copywriters. With copywriters, I find it needs to be something that's innate within them, but to an extent. Then again, like I even think about Danny. Like Danny, when he first started working for us, his copy was horrendous. So for the first year, he would manage all the campaigns. I would write all the client ad copy, and then he was like, he's a really determined little fuck. So he was just like, we get really competitive as a team. So he would get really good at copywriting and just study all the books. And then we got to a point where we would split test our different ad copy against each other and see who would make more money for our clients. And then eventually got to a point where we brought on Kieran, and then Kieran and Danny fought, and then Kieran manages everything now. But anyways, my point is like, there are a lot of roles where someone cannot have the background experience, but they have the sort of the raw, just kind of those innate traits within them. And they kind of have the perfect archetype to be good at paid traffic or sales or this or that. So yeah, did he have any background experience?
Yeah. He actually, like 2 years ago, or I think it's more than that, like 3 or 4 years ago, I think he left the company where he was working with my dad to go work with a marketing agency doing like paid traffic and social media management and stuff like that. And then, that's, so he had a background in paid traffic. Right now, he's also working in like full time in another marketing agency, besides mine, and he does paid traffic. So yeah, he's really good, and he's also like really good at also like managing the clients and like being friendly with the clients and stuff. Really good with that as well.
So I think that's something that I definitely want to touch on, because I think one of the biggest fears for people when they bring on a contractor, which I'd never refer to them as that, they're a member of team, until you get to a point where financially and for both parties it makes sense for them to come on full time. I think that's one of the biggest fears or concerns, is people almost think they're like doing something wrong, or they're doing some white label type shit. When no, like even Danny, when he was working with me on a per month per client basis, with some retainers ranging up to 10K a month, like literally to give you an example that like everyone will know, Oura Ring, our client, one of our old clients, like he was still a contractor in the first 2 weeks that Oura Ring was a client. So that's a 5-figure plus a month retainer. And this dude's still a contractor, while we were kind of finalizing the last details of him coming on full time. So, it's not like Danny was like someone I hid, like he was someone I acted like. You kind of need to do the opposite, which is just like really show them and say they're a member of your team, and this and that. Otherwise it's almost a little even weirder.
Yeah.
So yeah, just in general, like what have you done to instill your agency culture? Because, whether you're a team of 1, 2, or 3, like every agency does have things that are important to them, has an agency culture, has an agency DNA to it. So what have you done to kind of instill that in your small little team, and how have you managed to get him to mold and gel well with the clients?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, first thing I did was like just introduce him to like my philosophy on like how I see things with business, and how I like to like manage clients and deliver the service and stuff. So basically I introduced him to like my strategy, and also like a thing like a communication policy that I created, like this is how we communicate, for example, on Slack. And basically just telling him like how to basically like creating processes through like Google Docs, for example, for every single thing. So for example, I have a thing called like communication policy within AJ Media, and then it's like 1 or 2 pages that explains how to communicate with clients and like with team members. Well, basically with myself, because we're only 2 right now. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then from that, in terms of like managing the clients, basically he was already pretty good at it, because he's really good like socially with people and stuff. But just again, just a few just gave him like a few guideline on how to manage the client, update them, what makes them feel good. Like for example, we started updating client every single Monday and Thursday, just to give them a little update on like what we've done so far, because like we're always working on their account, but like if they never hear from us, like I've noticed that they come back to us and they're like, what are you guys working on, is like what's going on. So yeah, things like that. And also like in the beginning, especially like when we are launching the ads, I'm putting a system in place to update the client like every day or so, just to give them a little update, just 1 or 2 sentences on Slack, telling them like, hey, we're writing the copies right now. It's going to be ready like tomorrow, for example, because I just want to have the best communication with my clients and with the team as possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Understood. So look, you're at a point right now where your agency's, hovering right around that 6-figure a year mark, working with 5 clients at the moment. But now you've managed to kind of offload the service delivery aspect of it. So my question to you is like, what does a normal day in the life of Michael look like? What are your priorities? Like if you're planning the night before, and just laying out your next day, like what is the non-negotiables, the things that have to be done?
Right. First thing is outreach. So every single day, doesn't matter what the day is, Saturday, Sunday, I do like a process I go through. So LinkedIn outreach, Facebook outreach. Yeah, that's the first thing. And then also after that, I started doing like cold messaging follow-up. So basically, within the agency Incubator, I have like I created like a follow-up sequence basically that I follow. So I send like a few messages following up with people on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then the rest of the morning will be something like building systems or improving processes. So right now, for example, working on building like a standard operating procedure for delivering the service. So that way there's like less communication involved with my Facebook ad specialists and the clients and stuff like that. And it's more like efficient, and we can actually deliver the service faster. So yeah, so normal day would be like in the morning, I do my outreach, and then after that, I will like build a system or improve a system. And then in the afternoon, I'll take on calls, and then I'll basically work with clients, respond to Slack messages. And yeah, at night I do like role plays, sales role play with people, and I practice my sales basically.
Okay, amazing. So out of curiosity, what is a number of meetings a month where if you dip below that amount, like you're concerned, So whether that be, if you know that you're having less than 2 sales meetings a month, or 4 or 8 or 10 or 20, like what's your barometer for like, fuck, I'm not having enough meetings, or I'm not saying enough meetings in order to be having, or I don't have the, sustainable lead flow to keep up and grow or maintain the amount of clients I'm having.
Right. I'd say it's about 12 per month. So roughly 3 per week. And when I say 3 per week, it's like 3 that are qualified. Because before I was just like, hey, do you want to get on a quick 15-minute call? And pretty much without qualifying them and stuff like that. And I was getting a lot of like tire kickers, and it wasn't really qualified. Like, yes, I was getting a lot of calls, but nowadays I really make sure that I take on calls that are serious, that already know about me, already know about the results that we got. So that way it's, I'm not wasting my time. So yeah, 3 qualified calls per week is like my minimum.
Okay, amazing. Now, what advice would you give to anyone who's just beginning on their agency journey? And I want something maybe a little more practical or actionable, rather than just like, believe in yourself, or like, don't quit, or like this or that, you just see, like seriously things that like, if you had implemented would have cut your learning curve, even if it's something as simple, to be honest, as just sticking to one niche, or maybe sticking to one outreach method or whatever.
Yeah. So when you first start working, do your outreach. That would be my biggest tip. As soon as you start work, don't do anything. Don't check social media. Don't check email. Don't work on anything else. Just do like some outreach. And then after that, you can focus on whatever, and, stick to your outreach and do it like at the same time every single day. So, and then after that, once you're done doing it, like give yourself a reward. Like even nowadays, I still give myself like a coffee after doing my outreach. So that's why, because I see a lot of people, like when they first start off, they're maybe scared to do outreach, or like, yeah, it's not like a habit. But when you give yourself a reward, I think it helps a lot to build that habit.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't have said any better. At the end of the day, like people run rings around the topic of like having a website and having a this, and what happens in this obscure weird situation that like there's a 0.01% chance of happening, but like, what if coronavirus starts to affect my agency and this, and just like people will just like freak themselves out. And it's like, well, none of this, like all of that is contingent on you setting a meeting. And like, so why don't you worry about that once you set the meeting? And especially the next thing, the other thing that I would say is like, I think there's a totally valid case for having 100% of your ducks in a row. If you know that your conversion rate, if you know the amount of meetings, okay, and obviously you're probably not the best person to say this too, because you legitimately closed your first meeting. So, you're an outlier, but like, that's the simple truth is that most people don't close their first meeting.
Yeah.
Most people, it takes them 5 or 6 or 10 or maybe even 15 meetings to close, So at the end of the day, like they're probably not going to become a client anyways, your first or second or third meeting. So like, you might as well get those reference experience and that practice in. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Off camera, I'm excited to kind of talk about some of the more high level agency stuff. Or actually, I'll leave with one more high level question. Look, you're at around 8K a month with your agency. What's the next goalpost? What by what time? And what are your action steps? And what are you intending to do to get there?
Right. So right now, I don't have like a strict deadline on hitting that goal, but to me, the goal that I set myself and where I see myself in the future is really like at $40,000 per month profit. And the reason I'm aiming like so high from where I'm at right now is just because like 15 or 20,000 or $30,000 per month profit doesn't really excite me that much. But like $40,000, like once I hit like 8K per month, I really started seeing things like on a much bigger level and started seeing bigger. So yeah, the next thing to get there, I think, is really to, first of all, like change up my identity and change some of my limiting beliefs that I still have, and then get higher ticket clients. That's for sure. Starting to get 3, 4, $5,000 per month retainers, and yeah, build systems to have a better service and keep clients on a long-term basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, just on your last point, I mean, you've got a client that's coming on 22 or 21 months they've been working with you. I think you said, was
Yeah.
it April 2018 they signed?
May 2018.
Yeah, so in March now, so 22 months. So I mean, that's the thing, 22 months. That pays dividends. Like that definitely pays dividends. And at the end of the day, it's way easier to keep a client than it is to sign a new one.
Yep.
So being able to do that at all costs, and I don't think it seems like that client is going to leave you anytime soon. So that's the cool thing. Like you literally have when you have such a high ticket service and you match that with having a really high retention rate. You look at the lifetime value of a client of yours. It could be depending on what you're charging anywhere from, and you keep them on for a year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You're pocketing 30, 50, 100, 200, 300K, depends how high ticket you're charging.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's something that a lot of agency owners need to get a little bit more focused on and obsessed about, is just sparking as much client delight as possible, building really, really deep, solid rapport with clients, to the point where like if they fired you, it would feel like they were like firing their best friends. That's one thing I do at my agency, is like we're really good friends with all of our clients. You know, so yeah, all in all, I think this is a really, really solid interview. And once again, just want to thank you for your time.
Sure. Well, thanks to you, man. Really appreciate it.
All right. Cheers.